Today, we are still in Nandi County, Chisumi Sub-County at Sychar Farm. According to the farm manager, Martin Karanja, who joined the farm not more than 2 months ago, their cow's milk production has doubled since. We sought to find out why and how they have managed this turnaround.
When I came in at Sychar Farm, I got dairy farming. It was, it was the project that was going on well, though it had some challenges. One, the deworming was not done properly. Also, feeding, it was not good because they used to feed on grazing only. So when I came in, I introduced another process called fermentation. That is whereby we use molasses to ferment grass, that is dry grass or hay. And after we introduced that, milk production increased because by that time they were milking an average of 40 per day. But after we introduced the fermentation, the milk increased we at sometimes up to 70 liters per day. So that fermentation helped us so much.
Molasses is an important ingredient on dairy farms as it is used to provide sugar to animals, improve palatability of feed rations, and is used in silage making to aid in fermentation.
The importance of fermentation is that once you ferment grass, you add value or value addition. That is because molasses have some starch, have some carbohydrates, and again the grass itself has some fibers. So when you incorporate all those, the grass is somehow rich. And again, after you ferment the grass, it is digestion. Because we know during the digestion in ruminant, it goes a process, like for cows we have 4 chambers. So that process, when the cow feed on dry grass, it takes more time to process. But when when it's fermented, it is digestion, thus processing milk quickly.
Dairy farmers around the country have developed various methods customized for their herds. This is mostly dependent on location, availability of feeds, and the system they are using, that is either zero or semi-zero grazing. Sychar Farm is on a semi-zero grazing system and they have their own special method of fermenting hay. First, they spread out the hay and sprinkle water on it for softening. They then mix the molasses with water at a ratio of 1:1 and spread it over the hay. As this is going on, the hay is turned thoroughly to ensure an even spread throughout. The hay mixture is then put in a drum and compacted thoroughly to remove as much air as possible.
Okay, this is the material or the grass that we use for fermentation. We use the molasses to ferment that. After we ferment, we make sure that we use the tightening reed to prevent the air from getting inside the tank. Why? It's because when the air gets in, the grass might decay. But when there is no air getting inside, this will be prevented.
Finally, the drum is sealed with an airtight lid and stored for 3 to 4 days to allow fermentation. This is not the only fodder that the cows feed on. Since Sychar Farm practices semi-zero grazing, it means the cows also graze. Later in the day, they are brought together at the feeding troughs and fed on 2 drums of the fermented hay. On a zero grazing system, the recommended ration for a milking cow is 30 kilograms of silage to produce 30 liters of milk per day.
And again, after you ferment the grass, it is digestion, because we know during this digestion in ruminant, it goes a process. Like for cows, we have 4 chambers. So that process, when the cow feed on dry grass, it takes more time to process. But when you give, when it's fermented, it is digestion, thus processing milk quickly.
There are various critical factors that one ought to consider when or before doing dairy farming. Number 1 is land. You don't have to own land for you to be a dairy farmer. However, you can lease and keep over 500 heads of cattle and make millions in return. The second one is labor. Whether you depend on machinery or humans, intensive labor is paramount in dairy production. Labor is estimated at about 45 to 50% of the total cost. And then lastly is of course capital. In dairy farming, the most important capital is stocking the cows and construction of the cow shed, milking crutches, fencing, as well as equipment. In Kenya, a good in-calf heifer varies from 40,000 to 200,000 shillings depending on genetic potential. Cow sheds that are simple and can hold up to 4 cows are estimated to cost 50 to 100,000 shillings depending on what you use as material and of course labor. However, this cost can go down if one uses locally available materials such as timber, building stones, rainwater and home labor. Crucial recurrent expenditure costs include artificial insemination, purchase of feeds, healthcare, milk and marketing sales. So, before embarking into this venture, ensure you are in it as an agribusiness.
Our dairy farming, I take it as a business or an agribusiness for that matter. And we are on that process. One, currently, we know when you feed cows on silage, there is a great improvement as far as milk production is concerned. So we have the plan to plant silage, that is maize. We want to plant a good plantation of maize. We want to do 10 acres of silage. Then after they are okay for harvesting, we shall harvest and keep them as our silage. So we shall have consistent milk production, whether it's a dry season or a rainy season. That is one thing that I want to look on, because we want to make profit. Yeah, and what we have now, it is not even a quarter of what I'm aiming. For that 70 liters we have now, my aim is to produce, by the end of this year, is to produce 300 liters per day. And that is possible when we have proper feeding, proper deworming, and doing all what is needed in the dairy farm. So we are on the process of improving some of those areas. We have some cows on pregnant. We are also, as I have told you earlier, we are going to improve the feeding. Currently, even what we have as of now, if we can feed on silage throughout, and we put them to zero grazing throughout, I believe that 70 liters will be multiplied by 2. Then again, on looking on those heifers on pregnant and other cows on pregnant, we have like 3 that we are aiming that by the end of this year, we shall be milking them. We shall now have 10 milking cows. With 10 milking cow and with an average of 30 liters per day, we shall come up with the 300 liters I'm telling you.
An animal must first be dewormed when it is 2 to 4 months or at an average of 3 months. Deworming intervals depends on the dewormer used, but most drugs in the market recommend after every 3 months. At Sychar Farm, Martin tells us just how important this is when it comes to yields.
For lactating cows, we deworm one at a time, because once you deworm, you have to wait for 48 hours for you to continue selling that milk. Although the milk does not go to waste, because we usually feed that milk to the calves. And as you know, it is already treated, that milk, it also helps the calves. The other thing, for calves, we are supposed to deworm them monthly, on a monthly basis, because calves, when they are outside there, they may feed on dirt and what have you. So they need to be dewormed monthly, on a monthly basis. After deworming, the cow goes for 72 hours without using that milk, because by that time it is under treatment, and that milk is not good for human consumption. But we use that milk to feed the calves. Yeah.
At